Felis catus is your taxonomic nomenclature, an endothermic quadruped, carnivorous by nature. Your visual, olfactory, and auditory senses contribute to your hunting skills and natural defenses. I find myself intrigued by your subvocal oscillations, a singular development in cat communications that obviates your basic hedonistic predilection for the rhythmic stroking of your fur to demonstrate affection. A tail is quite essential for your acrobatic talents. You would not be so agile if you lacked its counterbalance. And when not being utilized to aid in locomotion, it often serves to demonstrate the state of your emotion. Oh, Spot, the complex levels of behavior you display connote a fairly well-developed cognitive array. And though you are not sentient, Spot, and do not comprehend, I nonetheless consider you a true and valued friend. Hey guys! Today I'm reviewing episode 5, Where No One Has Gone Before. Plot-wise, it's a really simple episode. Basically, there is a Starfleet scientist who he has upgraded the propulsion systems of 2 other starships, and now he wants to try it on the Enterprise. So him and his assistant come over, and they run this test, and something goes wrong. And they get launched 2 galaxies away into... they give the name of the galaxy, but it didn't really mean anything to me. They're just 2 galaxies away. They're like 100 or a couple 100 years from getting back home. So the guy, the scientist, he says, oh, I just made a mistake. I input the equations backwards or something. I'll redo it and get us home. So Picard tells them to do that. They'll just go home, and then if they can, they'll send out another team to explore. But right now, Picard just wants to get his people home. So they go down to engineering, and they do it again. But this time, they make a mistake again, and it sends them to the far reaches of the universe, which they don't even know where they are, how it's possible. They just know they're at the edge of the known universe, or possibly just at the edge of the universe completely, whatever that is. And while they're running these tests, Wesley notices that the scientist's assistant, he was inputting just some basic, functions and, maybe coordinates or something into the other computer. But while he was doing that, he started to phase in and out of reality. So basically he was just turning, bits of him were turning invisible really fast. And so they find out that it is this assistant who calls himself the Traveler who has been manipulating the propulsion. It wasn't even the scientist at all. Like Riker thought, this guy's mathematical equations he was putting in did nothing at all. He just thought that they worked. Really, it was the Traveler doing everything. So they end up in this place, and they find out that your thoughts become reality here. Because, Worf, he sees his pet Targ, which is basically a little wild boar. This pet when he was a kid. Picard sees his dead grandmother just sitting in one of the corridors, making him tea. And so they find out that whatever they think becomes reality, which is really dangerous because humans, well, even in, the 23rd century, 24th century, they still can't control their thoughts to the point where it's safe for them to be here. So the Traveler is really ill because he's so exhausted, but he says, I'll try to get you home. So they do the thing again, the Traveler starts phasing really bad, and he gets them home, but just as he does, he just disappears completely. He just completely is gone. They don't know what happens to him. It doesn't really explain what happens to him in this episode. So really, it is a really basic plot line, but I really like this episode. At least I did this time when I watched it, because it's really different from the rest of the episodes of Star Trek, at least up to this point. Because I know, in these past episodes, I've kind of been pointing out how even though all the aliens are different, all the things they come across have really different cultures and, technologies, Star Trek is still really focused on the point that they are us. They're still human, and even the ones who aren't human, they still are, have different features of us and of our society. And it's really about human and alien interaction, which that's what Star Trek comes down to at its core. It's just our interactions with each other. If you break it down, all this technology is just to the side. But this episode is not about that at all. It kind of goes beyond that. It goes to this whole new level of, as Wesley puts it, they go to a place and he learns that time and space and thought aren't as separate as they appear. They're all the same. And we already know that time and space are related. We're just beginning to kind of understand that. But in this episode, it's saying that our thoughts can affect our reality. And time and space and thought, it's all just wobbled together in this, to borrow a phrase from Doctor Who, it's just this big timey-wimey thing. And I really think this is a really cool concept. I'm going to get back to that. I kind of got ahead of myself. I meant to just touch a few things on the episode first, but keep that in mind and I'll get back to it. A few things that I like about this episode is that you do get a really brief scene with Tasha, because whenever their thoughts start to become reality, her cat jumps up on her, command console for the chief of security, and her cat just jumps up there, and all of a sudden she has this flashback, except it's not really a flashback because she's actually there, where she's underground in some sewer system, her clothes are all, ripped up, she has scratches, and she was hiding from a rape gang, and she tells Geordi that for a second she was back on the colony where she grew up. Now, before this point, you didn't really have a lot of background on Tasha. Eventually it comes out that she lived on a failed colony. There was, I think she had to fend for herself from the age of 5 on until she escaped when she was 15. And it was just a terrible place to live, obviously, but she had, I have an itch. But she had to hide from rape gangs, and she had to fend for herself entirely. And it's kind of cool because you kind of start to get a background on Tasha Yar, and you kind of start to figure out where she comes from, why she does have this tough exterior. And I know I mentioned a few times, I know it mentioned in The Naked Now, how she was saying all she knew was cruelty up to that point. But this you actually get to see kind of what it was like, and I think that's really cool, because they are bringing a lot more character development into it. A second thing I liked is that the entire crew kind of starts to meld, especially Riker and Picard. Because in the very first episode, Picard was kind of rude to Riker because he wanted to test him, but as it goes along, you see that they really do start to form this really good relationship, not just between a captain and a first officer, but they really start to trust and respect each other. There's just one scene where the scientist from the Federation, I forget what his name was, it's Krasinski or something, but I'm just going to call him the scientist. But he's saying to Riker, I don't need your permission to do this, because Starfleet already has said I could. And Riker just goes, no, you have to explain to us what you're going to do. And the scientist gets a smug look on his face, I'll just talk to Picard. And Riker just kind of looks at him and says, it won't change anything. Because he knows that Picard will respect his opinion, and that they're kind of on the same wavelengths there. And just another thing, when Picard is talking to his dead grandmother in the hallway, Riker kind of walks up and sees him. And they don't really have a conversation there. Riker just is there anything I can do for you? And it's, obviously they don't never have, this huggy friendship or anything. But you do kind of see that they start to connect a lot better to each other. And I like that. That is the best part about this show, is the character interactions. I know I'm really beating a dead horse on that one, but that's what makes it a good show. You don't want to just watch a show about ships flying around. It has to have people in it, too. And as it goes along, you form these relationships. That's pretty much all I want to say about the episode in general. I kind of want to get back to this whole premise presented by the episode, because I think it's really neat, because you have this idea that we as humans, we have the ability, or at some place in the universe, we would have this ability to shape our surroundings by our thoughts. And I think as a race, we've come a long way with science and technology, but we still don't know some of the most important questions about ourselves and our world, which is why we still have philosophers, because there are some questions we just can't answer, and one of them is about the power of the human mind. Is it possible for us to shape our surroundings? We really don't know what we, not just with our hands and with our mathematical formulas, what we're capable of. We don't know what we, it's just as a person, are capable of in our minds. And you could spring so many, different areas of thought for this. I'm not going to try to focus on that in this episode. I want to focus on this one thing that the Traveler says to Wesley, because he says it about Wesley. He says it to Picard. And as he's kind of laying on the hospital bed trying to regain his strength, he says to Picard that every once in a while there is born someone who has the ability to either go beyond or see beyond the normal human limitations. He references Mozart. He has the ability to create, I'm pretty sure this is the quote, he said he could create symphonies that could not only be heard but could be seen and felt. And he said that Wesley had this ability, not with music, but with time and space and propulsion. And I think that we've all kind of experienced something like that. At least I know I have. It sounds kind of stupid, but we know that there are geniuses, and we know that these people, no matter what field they're in, like Einstein or Mozart with music, they have the ability to kind of, just for their lifetime, or to allow us for a few seconds even, to kind of push past our normal limitations of our mind. And the thing that comes to my mind is The Little Prince. I don't know if any of you have read that. It's by a French author, I believe. I don't remember his name right now. I have the book at my house. I got this book from the library when I was about 5 years old, I think, because they were selling a lot of their extra books, and my mom just bought it and gave it to me. And I remember reading that, and as a child, my mind was just blown. If you haven't read the book, it's about this little kid. He lives on an asteroid. He comes to Earth and has adventures. But if you read the book, you kind of get the impression that it's about so much more than just that. It's like this author could just for a second, or maybe whenever I say just for a second, it's more that he lets us for a second go beyond. So for a second, we can read this book and we can really see his genius. And for a second, we realize that there is something more than what we can just touch and taste and see. It's like, for a second, we can, see the world almost with a sixth sense. I know I'm not explaining this well, but this is what this episode makes me think of. It's the idea that there are people who can go beyond our normal limitations. So, I don't know if I've explained myself well. This is actually related, but on YouTube, I don't know if any of you have watched a show with Zay Frank. I just started watching him recently. My friend actually told me to go watch him. And he kind of has this too. I'm not saying he is on the same level as Mozart, but you get the feeling that he really understands humans more than, say, I would. I mean, I'm only 19. He's older, so he's obviously lived more. But he has the ability to take all the convoluted feelings that we have and all these twisted thoughts and really just put it in terms that we can understand. Either just talking about how we're afraid that maybe we haven't done enough with our lives, or if he's talking about just how to experience happiness. He kind of lets us for a second realize that there are answers and there is more than what we as individuals can understand. So you should go check him out. I don't know if you have. It's Zay Frank. Yeah, I was gonna put a link, but you can just find him on YouTube. It's just, you type in Zay Frank and you'll find him. But I want to know if any of you have ever experienced something like this. Because I know some people have a passion with music, some people have a passion with anything. I think you could experience this. But if there's anything that you read, or a movie you've seen that have just made you really think, and if you kind of know what I'm talking about here, you kind of get the feeling when you watch this or read this that this person is a true genius almost. The book Jonathan Livingston Seagull, I think the author of that just died recently actually, but that book, I read that a few years ago. Sorry, I had a piece of lint on here, but I read Jonathan Livingston Seagull a few years ago, and that really had the same impact on me as The Little Prince. It's just, I don't even know if anyone else will get this impression when they read it, but for me as an individual, I really like those two books because it really makes you think. This has been a really rambling video, and I realize that. And I didn't want to focus on the episode so much because it is kind of a boring episode if you just take it at face value. But if you watch it and then think about it, maybe discuss it with someone, then you can get so much more out of it because it opens up this entire new, it didn't create the idea of our thoughts creating reality, but it really drew a focus to it. And you can just have all these discussions about it and think so much about it. And it's really a really cool episode in that they were trying to do something completely different. They might have taken a lot of flack for just, going off from what they normally do and doing almost a mystical type thing. Because most of the things in Star Trek can usually be explained. But this episode, they really go and do something completely different. So if you want to leave a comment about something that you've seen or heard, or any book or just anything that have made you kind of experience like that little flash of genius or something, you can leave a comment about that. I would love to like discuss it with anyone. And if you didn't like this episode at all, I promise that next week I'll be back to a normal show format and I won't go off on this little tangent. So thank you for watching me talk this whole time. Did you guys know that today is the 46th anniversary of Star Trek: The Next Generation? Well, I found that out and I decided I'm going to have a little party to celebrate. So, I got my chocolate ice cream here, I got my Oreos, and I got my cowtail. So we're just going to have a little party here and talk about Star Trek. Oh, this is a big thing of ice cream. Oh, no, wait. You know what? I am going to put the Oreos down first. I went to the college store. I couldn't find any cake or ice cream or even like those little little apple pies or like green apple pies that they sell in bags. I couldn't even find any of those. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna get some ice cream and we're just gonna make this by ourselves. Alright, so I got some Oreos in here. Gonna some ice cream. I thought about, they had a lot of different kinds of ice cream. I thought about getting strawberries, but, you know, chocolate, you always gotta go with chocolate. Come to think of it, strawberry might have been good with the Oreos. Alright. Almost lost an Oreo though. Alright, so we got our chocolate ice cream. And I've always loved cowtails. I think the first time I had a cowtail, I was playing softball. I was playing t-ball. I was like 5 years old, and they had a concession stand. And my it was so good. It was really, really good. My mom was working there, so I just got a bunch of cowtails when I fell in love. But you gotta go with the vanilla flavored cowtail. I gotta admit, I've never had a chocolate flavored one, but I really don't see the point, because the entire point is you got the contrast about this outside, whatever this is, on your vanilla flavored stuff in the middle. So, I got everything here. Just gonna have this. You know what? We should sing a song first. I don't think that there is an anniversary song. No, you know what? My mom used to sing something for anniversaries. I don't know if it's not a real song. Alright. Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary. Happy anniversary, Star Trek. Got a cowtail. You can't really taste the cowtail much. It's actually pretty good. Alright, get some Oreo in here. Tricky little bugger there. It's pretty good. Alright, so happy anniversary, Star Trek.